There we go. Scene 98, take one.
My name's Paula Donnelly. My parents were born in Los Angeles, as was I, and I grew up mostly in Redondo Beach. I work at Cornerstone Theater Company. We are a community-based theater company, so the work that we do is all specifically engaged with different communities. We're sitting in the building at 708 Traction Avenue. We moved here in 1999. The neighborhood was a little different then. This building, when we first moved in, I think it used to be a gym of some kind, possibly a drug front. We actually moved here because one of our company members lived in the 900 block of East 3rd, and it was a good deal. We had very cramped space over at the 18th Street Arts Complex in Santa Monica at the time. So we moved here, a lot more space, and we just kind of build offices as we need them. We don't have a space here for performance. There's not a lot of capacity for how many people we could have, and there's no rear egress, as they say. So we use this space for our offices and meetings. We have rehearsals here. Sometimes we rent it out to other companies who are looking for rehearsal space or meeting space. Mostly we use it because we just have a lot of programming and a lot of stuff we store. Cornerstone collaborates with communities to create all new productions. So every show we do is in collaboration with a specific community. That means that we spend time with that community, get to know them, and write a new play or adapt an existing story to reflect that community. And then when we cast the play with mostly community members in the majority of roles on stage with our company actors. One of the reasons why we don't really want to have a performance space is because we want to be accessible to the community we're collaborating with. Trying to find places within the communities that make it most accessible to people to be able to come participate both on stage and to be in the audience for the play. We're looking for people who might not normally feel welcome to come in and be in the audience of a theater production. Just last fall, we did a production called Love on San Pedro. It was a collaboration with the Skid Row community. The performances took place at the Los Angeles Mission in the gym they have up on the 3rd floor over there, which a lot of people didn't know. We brought in lights and a scenic designer to transform the gym. Our playwright, Jim McManus, spent a lot of time doing interviews, spending time in the neighborhood, talking to people, doing what we call story circles, where we get a group of people together and have a conversation about the community, but also, hanging out and going to San Julian Park, which is home for a lot of people and home base for one of our big community advisors, actually, Wendell Blassingame. That's kind of like his office there at San Julian Park.
There were people who I saw down there who were obviously in love with each other.
Love on San Pedro was inspired by all the romance he actually did see on the street. It's a love story about Marjorie, who's a woman who, after many years, has a great SRO. She's got some issues, as people do, on Skid Row, mental health and physical health and poverty, living on the street, and her relationship with a gentleman who goes by the name Skyhook. And then there's, of course, the population all around, their friends, their caseworkers.
I don't know how we could have gotten professional actors in to do it better because the timing is intrinsic. And when are you ever going to have everything intrinsic about the character sitting in front of you?
In a lot of the communities that we collaborate with, Cornerstone, by design, is an outsider in that community. We tried something totally new to collaborate with our own neighborhood, the Arts District. This all happened in the summer of 2008. We kind of tried to figure out how to define that community because the Arts District is spread out geography, and it really mostly came down to Traction Avenue. The neighborhood, at least at that time, I think still a little bit today, there's a lot of closed doors. There's a lot of mystery in the neighborhood. You can see plenty of art outside, but who's behind all those big rolling doors and locked gates? We reached out to our neighbors, which was exciting because, as outsiders, we're not usually collaborating with people who we run into on the street. We collaborated with residents at the American Hotel, and to say that that is an organization is a stretch, but it's certainly an important part of this neighborhood and specifically Traction Avenue. Residents of the American Hotel came over and joined us for story circles, which is mostly asking questions and telling us about their lives. There are musicians, a lot of musicians at the American. Definitely people with an artistic history, if not their current practice, some veterans. The show itself took up the whole city block, so we used the whole sidewalk, the street with some cars and a motorcycle, some skateboards, and bicyclists going through as part of that. Put bleachers across the street, and most dynamically, residents in the front apartments let us use their windows as part of the set for the play. There were actors in the windows and conversation between people on the street. It was a little bit like Laugh-In in some regards, on a very big scale. It was a real scene because all our shows are pay what you can. We encourage people to make reservations, but we were also in people's neighborhood, right in the middle of the street, so it's a little bit wild. And also for our neighbors who live at the American Hotel, many of them were in the play, but they also had friends who weren't in the play, and so they would do their part on stage and then just go sit in the audience, which is not traditional, but that's okay. Some of the musicians at the American who were in the show collaborated with our composer to create original music. So some of the scenes that happened in the windows up there included live music performance. The playwright was Paige Leong, who is a Cornerstone ensemble member. She was inspired by that mystery element of the neighborhood, by the rear window voyeurism when you can see something but you don't know the whole story. She was also inspired a lot by a conversation she had with a security guard around the corner on 4th Place, affiliated with the social services there. He has that voyeuristic experience of being on a corner, but seeing so much happen all around him. So Paige created attraction on that premise. So the primary character was a security guard. It was mostly an ensemble piece that painted a portrait of the neighborhood. There was a little bit of a plot about this security guard kind of going down the wrong path, about the very mysterious woman in the neon art building, which is right next door to us. Lily Lakich was really amazingly generous. The character, inspired by Lily, was really mysterious. Like she would just come in and go out and come in and go out. And that built up some of the mystery around it. There's no way that we could do a play about Traction Avenue and not include Joel Bloom in it. Joel passed the summer before we did this, and we actually did auditions for this play during the very first Bloom Fest celebration on the street. And we used the roof of Cornerstone. We had a giant papier-mâché puppet that was the body of Joel Bloom and then 2 different operators. It was on the roof, so it really projected far. The voice of the puppet was George Wendt, mimicking Joel Bloom.
Create a presence, you know what I'm saying? Come to meetings. Go on the dog walk.
George Wendt was a close friend of Joel Bloom and is a terrific actor. We sent him some lines, and he sent that and some others back, and we incorporated those into the script of the play. Coming to the Arts District in 1999, it was in a neighborhood I knew very well. It was a good location for Cornerstone to move here because it is central to a lot of the greater Los Angeles area, and parking was easier then. It was just an exciting neighborhood because it was different, and definitely you could tell why it was called the Arts District. The street art. There's a new piece just up on the Triangle lot, corner of Traction and 3rd, that I really love, a new rubber tire totem pole. It's fantastic. But that's one of the great things about working here is when you come to work, the new celebrations of life, both light and dark, on the streets here, just on your way into the office. You hear children in the neighborhood, which you never did before. People come down here with their families. I had the unique experience in 2008 when we were working on that play. I was actually temporarily living in the building to spend the night, in the loft upstairs and hear the weekend energy. Mostly the neighborhood would be deserted, and now it is even more popular on a weekend than it is during the day. People coming to restaurants, cafe chatter over at the Pie Hole, people waiting in line a really, really long time for a gourmet sausage, which boggles my mind. I think it's a given that once the neighborhood gets popular like that, that people are going to not be able to afford to live here, and also are going to feel crowded by the shift in values towards retail and appearance in a way that doesn't necessarily serve an artist's needs or lifestyle or values. I kind of value the proximity to Skid Row neighborhood and the social services on 4th Street to keep everybody real. This is not all glamour and perfume over here. It's a complicated neighborhood, and I think there's room for everybody.
Cut.